Welcome back to Miles Ahead, the podcast that covers the intersection between physical health, spiritual health, mental health for people who are walking the path of the warrior. I'm your co-host, Josh.
I'm Dr. Miles Holzberg.
Nice. I like that you threw the doctor in there.
Gotta throw that in there.
Yeah, that's legit.
Spent 12 years to get that.
Literal legitimacy. But yeah, today, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in. Last time we were talking about anger, so working that one out and what's underneath it. Got that men's retreat coming next month still. So I'm kind of like mentally prepping for that.
That's exciting. Where is it at?
Soon. I can't remember, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Texas, like an hour and a half out of Dallas. Yep. I don't know yet.
Exciting.
It's like a secret location.
Fun. Good time of year to be visiting Texas.
Yeah. Nice and warm. On balance, okay. Just trying to work a more positive outlook on life. I tend to do the broody doom and gloom outlook Scorpio thing, so I'm trying not to do that as much. And yeah.
Got to keep that PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah. When I was in high school and the Marines came to the gym to try to get us, and they got me right away. They're out, but that's what they're saying, like PMA. We're doing like bench press. It's all about PMA. And that was the thing back then. Was that something they gave to you in the Army? Same acronym?
No, I heard about that from some friends of mine. Some gym members when I was running a gym. I had some millennials or Gen Zs that were all talking about the PMA, and I picked that up. And I'd read Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking, Power of Positive Living, and but I never had an acronym for it. I felt like I was the only person that ever read that book, so it wasn't like a code I was sharing with other people. But it made me happy to see a lot of people, using that as a moniker to live by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got you. You're cultivating your own PMA right now.
Yeah. It's a little late to the game, but better late than never.
Some people never figure it out.
True.
What are you listening to right now?
Music-wise? That's a good question.
Thank you.
I'm always listening to podcasts, so when I ever have music on. So when I'm driving my daughters to my in-laws when they watch them, they hate it when I'm podcasts on. So it was like, put music on. So it's on my shuffle. So it's just random. I have a eclectic taste in music. So I couldn't really tell you.
Sure. Okay, good. Then that's cool. I also have eclectic tastes, but if I do a truly random one, I have to use somebody else's because I can't curate, or Spotify will create, a nice random one from things you've already listened to. Mm-hmm. But I definitely get in zones where I want to feel more metal. I need more metal, mm-hmm. or more punk rock, or more soul, just depending on what it is. I'm feeling very punk rock. I've been back to been revisiting sort of my adolescent years. So been just turning on the Sum 41 and the Blink-182 and was it All American Rejects, that stuff.
Yeah, if you do that in the gym sometime with all your clients, and you had the Weezer station, that was cool. But then you put on the Taylor Swift one.
Hey, she was going to the Super Bowl.
Dude, I cannot work out to that shit, man.
What? That doesn't pump you up?
No. A lot of the other people seem to like it, but I like 3 of her songs. The rest, not so much.
I think I'm one of those people who would say I can't name a single Taylor Swift song, and then if you played like 20 of her songs, I'd be like, oh, I like this song. Oh, I know the song. Oh, and so it's a lot of it I just don't attribute to Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna save up some money, starting now. 2-3 years from now, I'm going to a Taylor Swift concert.
It's just got you. No shame. That's all good.
but yeah, I don't know. Big, yeah. Weezer, grunge, 100%. That's where I'm at right now.
I like it. It's good. What are we talking about today?
Well, I thought it would be good to get into grief a little bit. And I just got back from a funeral for my grandmother um, in Fremont, California. Betty Whitcomb Sabra Whitcomb. I don't know where she's going with which order of the names was important, but she's Betty Sabra to me. That's my father's mother, and super amazing woman. Had 95 really awesome years. She was in really good health for almost her whole life, and the last 4 to 6 weeks were troubling, and then it was over. So she just had a funeral, and uh, she probably had 100 people there, mostly family, but friends of family, and she just had such a positive impact on so many people. And uh, I this is such a like a cool moment in terms of a human moment, because I simultaneously saw like the power that kindness and love can have if you live it out on purpose over the course of years and years and decades.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's stories about her and the way that she impacted them was really profound. And also what it's like to lose someone like that who has given you so much, given me so much love and attention, and the coping with that loss, that I didn't really understand what it was going to feel like or what was going to be missing until it was gone. And I'm still having a hard time putting it into words. Um, but I know that a lot of people in my family feel the same, because I saw it in their eyes. When I was there at the funeral, I was like, no one's ever going to look at you like you're a perfect human being again, because grandmothers tend to do that. Where they see their grandchildren as always worthy of love, always just perfect, just as they are. And they always give you a more room than you give yourself. Another at bat if you're having a hard time in life, or if you've messed something up, whether it was a relationship or a job or your health or whatever. I feel like Grandma Betty always had a good meal for you, a hug, a place to stay, something nice to say, some words of encouragement. And it was cool to see all the different generations that she had touched just that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that sense of loss. And then you have all these like these different orbits inside the family and the dynamic between different people. And there's like a mini grief, or not, is it mini? I don't know. I even had some like a reflection on my relationship with my father, because I've had a role reversal childhood where I took care of my parents emotionally, and being in that space again, it was actually kind of relieving to know, because my people were coming up to me and asking me how my dad's doing, where is he, and what is he up to? Is he okay? And actually felt really a lot of relief. And I was like, man, I've been asking that question for like 35 years, and
Interesting.
I'm glad it's other people that that strikes them as a relevant question as well.
Yes.
So I felt a little less insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, you guys are picking up on that too.
And then my older cousin, I mean, most of my cousins are older than I am. They're not that old, but I had so many great speeches and great remarks from uncles and aunts and cousins, and just got the width and breadth of someone's life. And there was so much left. That means someone's 95 years old.
Mm.
You can only get a couple of stories about them. And we went long anyway, because it's a Sabra event and we all can't stop talking, especially about somebody we love. So seeing all that, and then my cousin Matt just drove it all home in two really important ways for me. He's I'm sorry, he's a veteran. He's a colonel in the Air Force, and he's a pilot who has been in for 24 years. And he grew up similarly to me, fractured family, to use his words. And Grandma Betty took care of him and his brother and lots of people in the family. And he nailed it. He said that uh, the love that God lived through Betty into all of us. It's so powerful, and it impacted us so greatly. We are all challenged now to be that love for other people, and be that love for ourselves. Give other people the grace that we receive from Betty, and so that space, that sort of being seen as that perfect human, could be an experience that we continue to feel and we help other people feel.
Mm-hmm.
So he nailed it. And it was really, killer speech, Matt, killer speech. I think I cried 4 or 5 times in the service anyway, which was really relieving and good.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, he asked me about my dad, because he wants to see my father too, because they don't get the chance to see him. He lives, a long ways away and is fairly reclusive. So they were excited to see him. And he asked me like, "Hey, where's your dad?" And I was like, "Oh, he went for a walk." And I started to explain. He's like, "Hey, man," like, he's his own dude. Don't worry about it. And
that must have felt good.
Yeah, just to see, to be seen, and a little bit of get a little validation.
Yeah.
So it's an easy thing to give, but a lot of times, or it's a simple thing to give, but it's not easy because it requires us to be present and have a little bit of stillness inside of us so we can take in other people.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone slayed it for me, and it was a lot. There was a lot of, like I said, validation, a lot of closure, and also grief and awareness that there was this huge gap that is left to live into and to grow into, because that muscle of giving yourself grace and giving other people grace, that muscle for me is atrophied, as I think it is in a lot of people, and as a coach and as a partner, something I want to flex more of and give people more space, more time, just even if it's just 5 extra seconds. Everything counts.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so nothing big.
Light topic. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was last week, and I think it's cool because, or what is exciting about, I keep using cool, but what's exciting about it is that this is the most self-aware that I've been in this sort of situation, and getting in a place where I have emotional pain and emotional frustration and friction come up, and I'm also aware of all my coping mechanisms, and there's a lot of value. I'm getting a lot of value from sitting with and just being uncomfortable, being hurt or being sad. And I'm a big fan of all kinds of things. I like to watch movies with my girlfriend, and we like to drink wine and go out to eat. And I told her on the phone, I was like, "Hey, just for a little while, I'm not doing any of that. Like, I need to just be quiet and just feel this stuff."
Sit with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a challenge in and of itself. It's just to interrupt the pattern and just be like, "Hey, it's okay. You can play video games later, man. You can play them later. Just breathe. Like, just be here in the stillness, fold your laundry. That's enough." And this is the first time where I've not medicated my bad feelings.
Not ran from them.
Yeah, that's right. Which, and also I want to even be gentle with that, because, I texted you, I still phone friends. I'm not like isolating. I'm like, just like sad and like,
right. Not doing it by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also like you can get support and you can go for walks and work out. And if you have a glass, it's not like there's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine or, zoning out. You should just not, that's not the only thing.
Correct.
Be like sitting with it too. So trying to have a balanced approach. And um,
Anybody ever go over the stages of grief with you before? Elizabeth
listen,
Kubler-Ross.
listen. That applies to other people.
Oh, right.
I've never really had any particular issue with grief or sadness. I just skip to denial.
Well, that's usually the first one.
Oh,
And they don't
oh,
usually go in. They, there's this order that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross created, and I think Dr. Huberman did a podcast on this. I think there's 6, and not everybody has to go through all 6, and they're not linear. And sometimes you progress to each one, and sometimes you loop back. But denial is usually the first one that hits.
yeah.
Then there's bargaining, the woulda, shoulda, coulda, then anger, and then depression, and then acceptance. I'm probably missing one here, but something in that order. But people kind of can hop back and forth. It comes and goes in waves, and they kind of surprise you. But if you're sitting with it, yeah, they'll come, and then you kind of tend to that one, and give it an internal hug and soothe it.
Mm.
What we want to do is run from it. It's like, I get that. Xbox, drugs and alcohol, whatever it is, porn, all the things that
The good stuff.
we do. Yeah. It gets a little too good, and then like, where am I?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. All of those things, like is that those stages they applied to grief specifically?
I mean, that's how it was presented, but I don't think it has to necessarily apply to death. They can apply to anything you lose. I think sort of loss, they probably come up in a similar way. Like a breakup or someone moving away, or there's probably a lot of crossover. This one was formed specifically for death and dying, but I'm sure there's a crossover. There's got to be.
Yeah. I I think which way is anger in there?
Yep.
Um like angry at myself, anger or angry at yourself, or angry at the subject of the grief, or what's the
Or angry at the person for leaving or dying. It's not logical. Like sometimes it's like, why did you leave me? It's parts of us do that. Like, what the hell? And then lots of things. And then you're sad about it, depressed, or the bargaining. Oh, I should have spent more time. I should have gone down to visit more. Our connection would have been better if I would have done that, or whatever it is. Or if I would have said this in the relationship, they wouldn't have left me, or whatever.
If I would have been a different person, they wouldn't have left.
Exactly. Well, that's sometimes what we think. We get in that confused state. But that's the bargaining. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Magical thinking comes after denial. Like, oh, there's this big heavy feeling. I don't want to feel it, but then, okay, now I got to feel it. The bargaining is sort of that little like mental jujitsu you want to do to not feel it, but then that doesn't work. Maybe anger slams you, or then maybe you get hit with depression. Then it moves to acceptance at some point, and you can backslide and go through these in a lighter form until over time, from an open wound, it turns into like a battle scar. You're always gonna have that battle scar. Well, that's good. Shows you went through some shit. And as they say in the Viking culture, hopefully the wounds are in the front and not your back, because you face that shit. When we're using the stuff to numb and cope, that's the wounds on the back. You're running from it, and in a battle, you're running away and you got killed, got stabbed in the back. So if you're gonna go down fighting, those are the wounds in the front.
I love that. I think I spent a lot of time in bargaining, and a little bit of time in anger. The kind of, you can call it, I think sometimes it's called over functioning, but sometimes it bleeds for me into codependence and taking responsibility for things that are not necessarily mine, personalization of things. I think with a lot of relationships, from my parents, or even friendships and business relationships or whatever, a lot of times when things don't work out, or they work out the way they want them to, like I'll get stuck in bargaining because in my deluded mind, I'm the only one with power, and responsibility. And That is a very old like groove in my nervous system, um, and letting that go and getting onto acceptance, and then growing from it. That's something that only in the last like 5 or 10 years do I even have the language to understand.
Mhm.
That's how I relate to things. In the case of my grandparents, both of them, I'm so lucky that I've just I've been a social person and I've decided to show up to things because I have so much time with them. I talked to my grandma on the phone. I went down to see her a couple times before she died. Like I look back at the last year of her life and I was like, that's good. Like we have these beautiful moments
Mhm.
and these photos together and really great conversations. The last conversation that I had with her, this is the night before she had a series of strokes. We stayed up till midnight drinking wine. She got to meet my partner and they hit
Great.
it off, and we just had this beautiful like picturesque
Mhm.
uh, connection. And then it was over, and it was, yeah, we're talking about showing up and those things. So lately, I'm leaning into relationships more about the way that I would like to show up into them. So I don't have a lot of like blame or regret. But sometimes that responsibility thing, over responsibility creeps in a little bit, or just being angry
Mhm.
at other people for not doing it the way I do it,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
showing up the way I show up.
Mhm.
So uh, all those things, all those things come up, and I still, and I catch myself all the time. I like you reminded me that you can backslide, because I will get there and I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, I understand. I feel okay.
Mhm.
I've truly accepted this.
Yeah.
And then a
So
year later, I'm like, fuck this, person. This is
yeah.
stupid, or
Yeah.
or like I should have done this, and the blame comes back, and it's like I thought we were past that.
Mhm.
I thought we were, but the context shifts, or
Mhm.
we learned something new, or something else erupts. But
Mhm. Or it's a lighter form of it this time.
yeah,
And that's a good, if it comes back, but it's not so intense, well, you're still on the right path. It's not so heavy.
that's right. That's exactly right. So, oh yeah, all those things, uh, and yeah, and I caught myself, and this is where like doing the reps and being in touch with yourself, or listening to podcasts like this one and other podcasts can help you, because I started to, you know, my family, my dad reacts much differently than I react, or normal functional people react, and I'm using normal in air quotes,
Sure.
um, but I started to go back into this old role of trying to help him and take responsibility and be in his corner. And it's like, if he wants to do grief the hard way, he can do that the hard way. And like, if he wants to, throw barriers up and make things difficult for other people to connect with him, then he gets to do that.
Not your
And that,
job.
and that's not my job. And it's the life that he's chosen to live.
Mhm.
And he can change his mind whenever he wants.
Correct.
And I used to have this, back to the stages. I used to like take responsibility and try to change it, or if, take on things that he wouldn't. I was like, none of that belongs to me. And now I know I can see myself doing it, and I have more grace for myself. So
Yeah.
I try not to react when I'm doing it and just laugh. I'm like, oh,
There you go. Love it. Love it too. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you've been trained to do that dance since you were a little guy. So it's going to take some time to untrain that, right?
yeah.
I've got to take care of dad's emotions. Wait a second. And it was probably a little activating over, I mean, he's losing his mom and all his stuff's coming out. And you see dad wigging out and you're like, oh shit, I got to take care of dad. And then you stop yourself
Yeah.
with the help of was it your uncle?
My cousin Matt.
Because,
Yeah. And other people. I mean, like, just I have such a loving family, and it was cool, and also like a sign of personal growth. I used to visit my dad's side of the family and feel like an outsider,
Hmm.
and partly because I'm my dad's son, he's an outsider, but partly because like imposter syndrome or not belonging is an organic thing that we all sort of have sometimes, or is common among different people. But this time I just got to I got to see the breadth of the family. We have a huge family, and everyone does it differently. Everyone shows up differently. So I just have more patience for myself too. And I think, look at that, Grandma Betty seeping in already. Just,
It's magic.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
so great. And yeah, I got to meet my cousin's kids, Betty Lou and oh no, Evelyn King, Evelyn King. Those are my grandma's first and maiden names.
Ah, okay.
So
Keeping
her
the
maiden
legacy.
name was King,
Hmm.
and Betty. So, Betty was such an impactful person in his life that he named his daughters after his grandmother, so that as he said, he wanted to stamp her all over his family and continue that legacy
Hmm. Hmm.
of love and kindness.
Namesakes. That's good.
Yeah, powerful stuff. So yeah, I got so much from it, and I'm getting so much from it, and um, I think the to the grace that I'm giving myself is in the past. Like, I'm a big people person, so I would want to just like visit with other people, go to parties, and sort of like ignore the the challenging emotions that I'm dealing with. I might have overcorrected. I think I'll get a little more social this week and get outside. But still, just understanding that even those coping strategies aren't bad. They just need to be blended with
Well said.
with integration work
Hmm.
and just being present. And I think the final thing, or not final thing, one more thing. I just emailed my therapist, and I'm like talking about this stuff, and I was like, what should I be doing, or what should I get, or how should I be
What's the 10-point plan?
exactly? And then at the end of my last sentence was like, and also I understand that there doesn't need to be some huge epiphany, or this doesn't have to have like a productive like element to it. I think the important thing sometimes is just to be a human
Mm.
and sit with this stuff, and that's the lesson.
Hmm.
Um, there's a my friend recommended me a book, talks about 3 important phases of grief and mourning. There's like discovery, there is um discovery and acceptance, and then I think the third piece is like transformational growth, whatever. Or growth is a piece of it. Is one of the phases, and I'm summarizing, and I'll revisit that author here soon so I can get that right. But he also warned me, it's like we all want to skip to like the
Oh, yeah.
transformational growth phase,
Oh, yeah.
but the most important part to stay in is the discovery phase, because it's just understanding all the facets of all the different contextual pieces of our lives that are impacted, and how we decide to use those. That's the most important thing. You may never even get to acceptance and transformational growth, or the lesson or the gem from it. It doesn't matter if you don't get those things. But if you stay in discovery, then you're not paving over emotions with different layers of what you think your personality should be.
Well said. Those will come back and haunt you later anyway. So
Yeah. I also I've been deep in this stuff. This morning I watched the Neil Brennan uh, uh, podcast Blocks on YouTube, where he talks to comedians about their emotional blocks and trauma. So it was a role reversal, and so he was getting interviewed by his friend Jimmy Carr, and they were going through this, and they posted the 13 cognitive distortions.
good ones.
And I feel like that. I mean, one, it was cool to see the graphic and understand what those things are. Which there's 13 of them. I don't even understand all of them and the complexities of each one, but when I go through my life, I look at a lot of times I'm responding to my cognitive distortion of an event, not the event, and to the point of paving over
Mhm.
your emotions with what you think your personality should be. most of the time, if I investigate an event and a relationship, most of my responses center around some part of at least a piece of a cognitive distortion or two in there, because it's difficult to just do what I'm trying to do now and sit with
Ooh, yeah.
the difficulty and not react and not be angry or confused about what is really going on for me.
That's the courageous act, though. We talk about warriorship on this podcast. That's a version of it. Sitting with it. That's just hard.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you feel this, Miles, but like I see now why like workaholism is such a thing. Because I'm like, I should no. I need to get back to work. I need to help somebody. I need to be productive, and that's part of my catharsis. And I'm gonna get to that. Like I'm happy. Like that's my work.
Yeah.
The being in the health field is really important to me, and it is therapy for me and a lot to be of service. But not in lieu of doing the work for myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not as a means to escape from feeling.
Yeah, the 3D is so seductive. Like it's such a like taking action. For me, being reactive is very seductive because it keeps me busy.
Yeah, that's a workaholism. Yeah,
yeah, and then I don't have to be with any of these difficult emotions, and I don't have to be in stillness, and I don't have to. Yeah, it's.
But those emotions are out in the parking lot doing push-ups, as the AA people say about your addictions when you're out working on them. If you're white knuckling it, they're out there getting stronger. And so fine, yeah, you can ignore them for now, but they're just getting stronger. And then at your weakest moment, they crush you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I have a text thread with some of my old friends, like my oldest friends, like 20, 25-year friendships at this point. And this particular thread is a bunch of us from Roseburg. And we check in on each other just to see how drastically different all our lives are since we first met. And it's fun. That's fun. I love hearing about like their kids and what their lives are like, and everybody's doing really well. And I like my big aha, or one of my big ahas. You were talking about anger, and I'm going to kick it back to you about the origin of your anger or your relationship with it. But it wasn't until like literally the last 6 months where I felt the absence of this undercurrent of molten lava that has been motivating my every action for the better part of 20 years. And I'm laughing that it's like, if you would have asked me, about anger, or if you would have accused me of being an angry person, I probably would have been just so blind. I'd been like, what are you talking about?
Would you have been angry about it?
No, I do get mad. But it's like, it's very difficult for me to tap into anger. But now that I'm a little bit distanced from it, I can see that like my whole life I've been like an arrow let's use a bullet fired from a gun, exploding out of an unacceptable situation or series of situations that gave rise to a lot of my personality as is today. And it was until like I asked myself, why am I doing this? In the last few months, where I'm like, oh, you're responding to a problem that from years ago, and you're hyper hammering this thing into the ground, and it's over. It's been over for a long time.
We forget that.
Yeah. And it's cool. I mean, I've been using the term cool.
Roll with it.
Yeah.
Some part of you wants to use it. Roll with
it. Self-awareness is cool. It's cool to not be confused and not be pissed off and not be self-destructive. That is cool.
That is cool. Yeah. It sucks. Self-destruction, that blast radius, it sucks. It goes way far out.
Yeah. It does. And like also, to your point, to your episode, that you're kind of generated this new stint that you're on about self-exploration. if you don't know, like I didn't, and maybe you didn't know, if you don't know where your anger is coming from, then it's surprising to everyone and it's out of character and it doesn't make any sense. Would punch someone in the face for a threat that they didn't even know they made,
Mm.
to me, something I viewed as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And
like a preemptive strike, like I'm going to take care of this now.
sometimes it was
literally a preemptive strike.
Sometimes it was preemptive. Most times in reaction to a dynamic at play,
Mm-hmm.
and something like usually it was like if I had a close relationship, like my best friends, they were threatening to withdraw or changing the dynamic, or just being a dick. You know who you are, Nick. Not everybody had it coming, but you did. Oh my god. But yeah, so getting it was this last week for me was really beautiful, and because I had enough distance from or self-awareness to be separated from all that, and was able to see myself in it, and have compassion and also willingness to change and do things a little bit differently.
That's the good to come from the bad. You get broken open in moments like this, and you can learn from it, because all that stuff that's built inside of you has been shattered. It's all over the floor. We don't want to clean that up and put ourselves back together, but we can reclaim stuff. I didn't even know that was there. Oh, that's what it is. Let's dust that off. Let's fix that. Let's update. These moments are good times to do that work. It sucks. It's hard, but these are good teaching moments. It's harder. It's much easier to like intellectually think about these kind of things and not do anything about it. But then when the shit hits the fan, that's when the work happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right, man. We got so much to go on. Yeah. What's up with you?
What did you want to know?
Well, you were talking. I want to know. It's like your anger
from last podcast.
Well, that was a symptom, right? Like that's the tip of the iceberg.
Correct.
You were really mad at your phone.
I was pretty mad at my phone, but yeah, that's just the wrapping paper. Inside that box was a different root. Yeah, yeah. I think my anger manifests completely opposite of yours. Like yours is, whether it was right, it was at least pointing in the right fucking direction, outward. I turned mine inwards because growing up, I don't think I could show anger to my parents because I was always afraid that they're going to distance themselves even more. I just have to like hold these emotions in and act the way they think I should act, so they don't leave me in my child mind. I think they're going to leave me more, and so I would just blame myself, pointing. Oh, I fucked up. I did the bad thing. I'm like 6. That's what we do as kids, and so. As I said last time, the cliche statement of depression is anger turned inwards. And there's some truth to that. So it is always frame as depression or irritability. And doing more of this internal work with my therapist, it's starting to come out more your way, hence the phone throwing. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I could do that. Is that a thing? Is that a good thing? No, it's probably not a good thing.
No, not if you like money.
If you don't care about money, just
set it on fire.
Start breaking windows. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good teacher. Like, damn, this shit's expensive. But yeah, I've never been the one to punch holes in walls and shit. I never understood that. Like friends that I get mad, I punch a hole in the wall. Like, why would you ever do that? Like, I look at that, broke my fingers, like they were almost like proud of it. Like, that's dumb, dude. And now I'm starting to sort of get why they would do that. Although I still think it's pretty stupid. But you don't want to point it towards yourself. But you don't want to point it at someone else. You want to, what's that sweet spot in between? Like, okay, I feel anger. Just feel it, hold it. I don't need to do anything with that except for experience it. And when you actually go there, like, where am I feeling this? Like, it's usually here in your chest, somewhere in your throat. Just give yourself like a little breathing mode, internal hug, and it kind of will dissipate. But you have to practice that. Like, instead of reacting, you're responding. That takes practice. And that's where mindfulness practices come in. So you get more space. You're going within, you're seeing how your internal world works so you can catch things. You know, if you don't do that, if you don't know how to focus and concentrate, you're just going to react. So that's why meditation is so helpful, because you're watching your mind do that in like a light version. And you can go, oh, okay, I see that, and come back to the breath. So it's hilarious because I've done all these meditation retreats and all this inward work. And I never experienced this until now with further work in therapy that, okay, I got to stop doing it to me. And so the polar opposite was like, it's got to go the other way. I needed to experience the wall on the other side to see what that's like. And I did that. It was a literal wall that my phone hit, and a sliding glass door. So what's in the middle? That's kind of where I'm at now.
What, yeah, I agree with that. And also like, is there anything in your world right now that's like unacceptable to you?
Let me count the ways.
Finally, somebody asked.
Yeah. If things don't go the way that I think they're supposed to be, I'm always back to the birdie Scorpio thing, like biased towards the negative. Like I start habitually thinking, waking up every day, okay, what's wrong? What do I need to fix? Rather than like, oh, today's a new day. What's going to go right? What's going right? I forget about that part. And it's like, I got to fix all these things. I got to do my blah, 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 and get all stressed out. Then I get irritable and I get angry. So that's the first thing in mind.
Thing is like the activities that you're involved in.
Yeah, just the day-to-day crap, the to-dos, have kids and how to do that right, and read all the books, and like, oh, I have a relationship, I got to read all the books, I learn about that, got to put into practice what I know, all that stuff.
What if your kids suck? I mean, your kids don't suck. I haven't met them yet, but like, yeah, like what do you do if your kid has like a mood disorder or something that doesn't, or I don't know anything about what that even means. So let's say like, what if you have a kid that has real problems, like,
Well, they're probably acting out yours and your wife's or your partner's.
Totally.
That's why I don't do couples therapy, and I don't do adolescence work, because when that's just too triggering for my own childhood. But usually when a parent comes in and says, here, fix my kid, it's like, after talking to your kid, it sounds like you guys need the therapy and not the kid.
Right.
They've made the kid the identified patient.
Yeah.
And their kid's just acting out their shit. The kid could generally have some sort of neurochemical ADD, dyslexia, frustration going on.
Sure.
That's a separate issue. But oftentimes they're just acting out attachment wounds, or, their parents' anger, or they're just trying to figure out what to do. They learn by watching and absorbing. So
what I got from what you said is that you're feeling the pressure to live up to your own standards.
Yes. Yeah. When it gets perfectionistic, as us want to be high achievers in life, or
want to be. I mean, you're a doctor. I'm in an industry with a 90% attrition rate by year, so yeah. I'm already in the top 1%.
But yeah, you're here. you're not there.
I mean, so we're already high achieving. So but it sounds like the ambition needs to be matched with grace.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, yeah, cutting yourself some slack and noticing we're all works in progress. And I like Jocko's take on like the iterative process. Like that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like with this podcast, like we have a new setup today, and shout out to our new acting producer in the back, John. Say hello, John.
Hey.
He's helping us out. Like how the hell do we do this? He comes in and does it in like half an hour. It would take me 4 hours to figure this shit out. Iterations, and just allowing yourself to go through step by step, and you don't have to be to level 10. Like I think, I've got to be there now. Listen to all these podcasters, and they're like, it's just amazing. And like that before, I would have just given up. Like, I can never do that. It's just way overwhelmed. Fuck it. Instead, no, you go step by step, one foot in front of the other, one fuck up in front of the next, and then you learn from each one. I was listening to Chris Williamson on Modern Wisdom recently, and he was talking about him doing his podcast over a course of like 6 years. And he just said he has more viewers and more money in the last 2 months than he had the entire 6 years, and just exploded. But it took him that long to get there. But just iteration after iteration, more guests, bigger guests, and guests know people that know people that now you've got like you're on Joe Rogan or you've got Dr. Huberman on your podcast, and then you're definitely 1% there. So I'm learning that some of that doesn't play grace in the iteration.
Well, I love that he shared the asymmetrical trajectory. I was in a car with a guy who had a independent broker dealer with $2 billion in assets, and he said it took 19 years to get to $1 billion, and then it took 18 months to get to $2 billion.
And yeah, because you applied all that knowledge that you learned, and yeah.
But to your point about iteration, I think it's really important to have self-awareness in this. It's very difficult when you're doing things that we don't have maps and context for.
Oh yeah, you're out.
You have people who are at the top level, and then you have no one. We were just talking about most podcasts don't even get to episode 10 or 20, like let alone 646, whatever. So the in between, there's a big gap in between, and I'll share something with you that I've been saying every day to my clients, also to myself, is you have the right information, but you're applying it in the wrong phase. So like I had been taking a bunch of actions for my business that were a phase ahead of the phase that I just started. And so all the material, it's like test offers, promote, and do all these things they're not in the phase that I'm in. And I'm in an earlier phase where I'm in offer alignment and testing my audience to see what they like and what they grab. So maybe they like that I do stuff for injuries, but they actually really cared about the nutrition, the mindset piece, or whatever it is. Blast from the past.
Synchronicity.
What is that?
There's synchronicity right there. We're talking about.
That's either a bot or someone just got released from prison. That was an old school up person.
You're talking about all these old people from your past, and someone called you. That shit's magic, man. Carl Jung said you got to pay attention to synchronicities when it happens. That means shit. So
100%.
Call that person back, whoever that was.
I definitely will. Mm-hmm. But like when you're taking action or you're in it, when you think you're in a different phase than you are, you're going to be met with a lot of frustration. You will not get a reciprocal. The energy that you're putting in will give you not a good return. You will not get reciprocal return for what you're doing. And whether that's in strength training, it's really easy because most of the time people are in a learning phase or a stability phase where they like need to learn how to do a good push-up. And like they know what one looks like, but they don't know that that's not what they look like when they do it. Right. So they got to clean up their technique.
The perfect push-up.
And when you get into the strength and power phase, the way that you use that push-up, if you have a bad push-up, you're actually going to hurt yourself when you try to do a plyometric push-up. It's bad, or a bench press or chin-up or whatever it is. So if you're acting phases ahead, you're going to damage yourself.
That makes sense,
right?
So the core foundation wasn't there. The form wasn't set.
That's right. The alignment, the confidence, but even we'll nerd out on fitness another day. But a lot of the qualities that need to be there are not there, so there's nothing to build on. So whether you're talking about the podcast or your business, your relationship or whatever, it's really important. The best thing that I like to switch context again, we'll go to relationships. My partner, the best thing she does is gives me the space to communicate, and we're really good about narrating. She's really good about narrating what's going on for her, and I'm following her lead, and I'm like, oh, here's where I'm at today. Like I need less of this, more of this.
Good communication.
Yeah. And I'm getting the skills so that we can have a very high quality relationship, so I can keep up with her and we can support each other, better. But I think a lot of times I'm personally like you, thinking I'm 2 or 3 steps ahead of the step I'm actually on. So what I'm doing doesn't make sense for what I need. And to bring it back to like your dissatisfaction, it's like, do you think that you have an accurate view of where you're supposed to be at in the space or what your current step is? on those elements, right? And checking in. And I would argue if you're at the right spot and you actually are centered, then it's a lot easier to deliver compassion, right? Because your expectations are actually in alignment with what's happening.
I like that. Yeah, that fits. I could do well to practice that more.
It's hard because you have to move slower.
Yeah, yeah. In some areas I go too slow, but that's out of procrastination.
Are we supposed to give advice on this? Did I just advise you? I don't like the advice monster.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
All
right.
Like the Stoics say, it's the truth or after, right? If I don't agree with all of it, I'll take the 23% that's agreeable and take it in. All the rest, like whatever.
Okay. So you're that landed a little bit.
It did land. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're a coach after all.
Yeah, but I don't want to shit all over somebody. I mean,
You're not. I should all over myself enough, so I know what it feels like.
but it does make it easier to work with when you're in a better mood. So
100%. Yes. Yeah. When you're in a shit mood, it's so easy to start blaming everything else in your external life as the cause. Like it's where you put on these shit colored glasses. You know, if like you're sleep shit and you're depressed and your neurochemical feelings and general state are off, whatever that bias towards the threat out there that normally is in level 5 in your good mood, it's like 13. Like you're totally misperceiving it. And that's what I have a problem with sometimes, especially, you know, get back to the episode of seasonal affective disorder. When it rains, I get into a funk and all the shit that I see as a problem is magnified way, way out there. And I just get crushed and I just don't do anything. So learning to work with that's been difficult, but that's part of my journey. That's part of the personality I was born with. I did Jordan Peterson's Big Five personality course, and he went into all of that and how some people are just neurologically born with these personality traits, and some are prone to more of the depressive, and he would consider himself as one of those. And it's sort of comes with the neuroticism aspect of the Big Five. And when I did that test, I was pretty high on that one. I had some other ones where I was in the quote unquote better, but he was telling you how to update that and, you know, make those deficiencies better. But I do have that predisposition, unfortunately.
The you have high neuroticism.
I did, yeah, and it's context dependent too. In some other areas I do not, but in some areas I do. But you know, you have your initial personality that you're kind of born with, and then you have your childhood experiences and life experiences on top of that, which really can distort that. You know, if you're already born predisposed to a depressive, melancholic state, and you get trauma, well, are you how much of that is actually true, or is that trauma? You know, so that's why you got to do the healing and the therapy, and then bring it down.
And well, the mix that there's a really potent brew of your nervous system as it comes out of the factory.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And your environment.
Yes.
I just watched, like I said, I've been on Mark Manson was interviewing Jen Gottlieb or some therapist. And
Lori Gottlieb?
Sure.
Maybe you should talk to someone author.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing book. Everybody should read it. It's so good.
They were talking about the state of therapy and how, you know, there's a lot of, we're hyper aware now of all the, you know, where you're at on any spectrum and all the maladies and disorders and things. But one thing she said, before I diagnose someone with being depressed, I'd make sure that they're not just surrounded by assholes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like, because if you're this kid and you're stuck in an environment that doesn't make any sense, then you're the sane person. Everyone else has issues.
Correct.
And you're the only one that's aware and acting out. Everyone else is just in their psychosis.
They're in their shit. Yeah. And when you're a kid, you blame yourself because that's all you know.
Yeah. Well, then I think this is a whole nother podcast episode. Maybe we should part 2 this one, because I think that I've watched being born into an unfavorable circumstance, but having the wiring to be able to self-extract is pretty amazing. And I've seen people now in similar situations react and respond much differently. and because of those natural traits maybe weren't there, maybe they didn't have the either they didn't have the neuroticism or the anxiety, or they medicated it away really fast so that they didn't change the environment or whatever it is. But I find that endlessly fascinating how you put people in a situation, and we have our machinery comes with the ability to self-adapt or to self-directly adapt in a direction that is self-determined.
Yeah, it's adaptive. It helps keep you safe, protected as a kid. But then you get out into the real world, and if you still use that machinery, then that's where the problems happen. They'll create a grow.
Well, and then to bring it back to the beginning of this episode is like the grief triggering all this stuff. And now I see it though. And I'm just like,
there you are.
Yeah. We have all these mechanisms in place. I have all these mechanisms in place that I would usually lean on to avoid having to sit in a painful place, or to distract myself, or to, my favorite one, cause new problems.
So you can go use those coping mechanisms.
So I can go, it's exactly right.
There's an excuse now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pissed, so I better play Xbox.
Yeah, man. I had it all figured out when I was younger.
Yep.
So I'm in a punk rock mood. You're in a medley of things, and I'm gonna continue to feel that teenage angst, and then see where I'm gonna guide my energy over the next year. The cool part is it's so cool. I think everything is happening for me. All of the plans that I had, all the vision I laid out that I think I sent you
for New Year's,
immediately derailed.
Slammed by COVID.
Immediately derailed. Ice storm, business changes, health, like immediately derailed. And I think in the best way, because as I have been sharing with you, it's dawning on me that everything I'm doing is in a response to something that doesn't really exist anymore. And so I'm excited. I'm excited. I have a feeling some good things can come.
Absolutely.
If I'm willing.
If you're willing.
If I'm willing to let things be good.
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Because it's not our way. It's not what I wrote down on this piece of paper, and I wrote it in pen, and I can't change it. So now it has to be like that.
Set in stone, damn it.
It's right. So, grace. Grandma Betty.
Grace is
giving everybody grace.
Grace and cool, words of this podcast.
Grace and cool.
I like it.
Let's do it. Okay. Episode Grace and Cool is complete.
All right. Closing thoughts.
Give yourself grace and be cool.
All right. Until the next one, everyone. We're out.